We have an agenda with 4 Board of Appeals cases, but the first item is to take public comment on matters not on the agenda. And I will first ask if there are any members of the planning board with comments not on the agenda.
Actually, I would ask if Polly knows about any of the other committees reviewing some of the articles and if we have any reports from them.
Well, the full advisory committee has not yet voted on warrant article 7. That's the 2 Clark Road or the lighting.
Okay, all right.
But the subcommittee did vote on warrant article 7, and they decided, I don't know all the details because I wasn't there, but I did speak to Maria today about it, that they would recommend passage of the larger parcel, the zoning change for that, and the zoning change for the smaller parcel, but without changing any of the zoning. So it would still be S7, even though it would be part of the zoning thing. Now, I cannot explain that to you, except that they knew that the select board is having some executive sessions about that parcel of land, the vacant parcel of land. And so that's the situation.
All right. Well, the comp plan is moving ahead at a snail's pace, but there will be a public engagement meeting announcement for sometime in January.
Great.
All right, that's it.
All right, thank you, Linda. Thank you, Polly. So open to the public. If any members of the public have a comment for anything not on the agenda, now is the time to raise your hand. Seeing none, I think we'll start with our first case. This is 80 Greenhouse Street.
And Cameron is going to present that to you.
Yep. So, sorry, give me a second. 80 Greenhouse Street is just a 2-story rear addition, which is in a currently single-family neighborhood with multifamily houses nearby. The 2-story addition will add a patio and sunroom, as well as increase the size of the kitchen on the first floor, and will add a new master bedroom and master bath on the second floor. And I believe Michael Kim is their representative, so I will allow him to unmute and he can take it over.
And let me just add that the relief that they need is for the rear lot setback. The requirement is 30 feet, existing is 20.5 feet, and the proposed is 14.6 feet. And that can be either allowed by special permit under section 5.43, which would require a counterbalancing amenity, or under MGL 48 section 6, which would not require a counterbalancing amenity. So we'll let Michael talk about which one he's asking for.
Okay, first of all, the owner, Andreas Wolfs, is also in the room, and I think it'd be appropriate for him to speak briefly first.
Okay, what's his name?
Andreas Wolfs.
Yep, I see him.
You should be okay now.
Hi, good evening. Let me just turn the camera also on. Hi. So we are the owners, my wife and me. And we asked for the permit to extend the house in the backyard so that we can accommodate our disabled son with an appropriate living space. He is wheelchair bound, aside from other disabilities, and so that's why the patio and the extended space are needed so that we can accommodate his needs. Thanks. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, happy to explain the project. I'm wondering if we could get the drawing set up, or I could share my screen.
Why don't you share your screen and Cameron will allow you to share.
Yes, please.
You'll be all set to share.
Okay. Okay. It is a rather a simple request for a definite need. Incidentally, we are simultaneously applying under the new town meeting provision for and I forgot the term for, but for handicap need. But given the unlikely event that the Attorney General finds that that provision is not legal, we would be back here. So this is the formal request. Dan Bennett asked us to go through the process kind of as a test case for the other process. So we're doing that
That process is
simultaneously.
called reasonable accommodation.
Reasonable accommodation, yes.
And if you
And that's, in
assume-
fact, we're asking for this for reasonable accommodation, but we are a test case for that process as well. So,
Well, actually, am I not correct that if you were to get approved by the Board of Appeals for your rear yard setback deficiency, then you wouldn't need to apply under reasonable accommodation because you would have been granted the permission.
that is true. And that's why we're doing both processes. And basically, when the building commissioner asks you to do it, you do it. So, and that's just more of an FYI. Um, the request to go into the rear yard setback is best depicted on the site plan. There is an addition to a 2.5-story Victorian house in a neighborhood that's increasingly having them torn down and replaced with more modern and larger buildings. The rear yard, there is a 30-foot setback. The house is slightly existing non-conforming. And I think it's important to note that in the rear of the house, I don't have the picture. Oh yeah, sorry. There is the side of a garage and pretty much nothing else. So going into this backyard affects pretty much nobody, and we're able to preserve the front of the house in its entirety. So we are applying without a compensating amenity, though I think it's a strong reality that keeping the existing house with all its nice detail facing the street is a nice amenity uh, for the neighborhood and for the community. Um, as the owner, Mr. Rolfe explained that they are doing this for their now adolescent disabled son. And to this date, the father has been carrying the son into the building, which was fine when he was a small child. He's now an adolescent, and none of us are getting any younger. So it becomes increasingly difficult, and this project is designed to accommodate them. I'd start on the second floor where there's a new master bedroom suite and their son's room will be adjacent. He needs assistance through the night, so the doors are combined. And then a large barrier-free bathroom forms the extent of the addition on the second floor. On the ground floor, there's a need for a larger room for the son and the family to stretch out, and a larger kitchen to move around. So the ask is to go into the rear yard where we're not affecting the historic front of the house, and to make these accommodations, which includes a full ramp in the back to enter the building, and a stair lift to go to the second floor. Incidentally, we tried probably every combination of elevator and outdoor lift and indoor lift and so forth, and we have arrived at this combination for reasonable accommodation for a disabled child. We have a set of elevations. Nothing's happening on the front. You can see the darkened areas is we're doing a 2-story addition to a 2.5-story house. The rear is simply that. The other side, also the 2-story addition to a 2.5-story house. I'll welcome any questions. but I think it's a fairly simple ask.
Thank you, Michael. I agree. It's a pretty straightforward project. I don't personally have any questions. My only question originally was, doesn't this fall under the new bylaw? But you're right, it's not been approved by the AG. So I guess I will turn it to members of the board. And also, if you have thoughts on whether or not we should be looking for a counterbalancing amenity, I was looking online, the site's really well landscaped. I don't think it needs more of that. Nothing that Michael's proposed, I think, detracts from the appearance of the house. It's quite handsome, but interested in your thoughts.
I have a question. Michael, it looks like the first section of the handicap ramp that comes off the driveway is a ramp on grade, is that correct? And then it becomes a
That's
structural-
correct. And the first 6 is a 1 to 20, i.e. not a ramp, i.e. we
It's like
only
a
have to start
footwalk,
the
right.
rails.
And then the ramp is the second link.
Yes.
I see. And so your plan didn't show grading, but I'm sure there's nothing, I think the only thing to be careful about would just be where the water's going. You're making sure you haven't changed the direction of natural gradient of drainage. That would be my only comment.
Fair point. And the lot is so flat that getting a contour survey didn't show anything.
Right, no, I'm
So
thinking that, you're pitching the water to the a sheet bottom as well as a little bit to sheet right. And you should maybe you would just have a little curb-like barrier so you can maintain the water on your site, so you don't create any issue for your butters. That's the only question I have. But other than that,
point taken.
I'm good to
and,
go. I think it looks like a
yeah.
needed and modest sized addition to meet those needs.
Thank you, Blair. Good caution on the grading. I'll go to Mark next and then Andrea.
Thank you. Is the ramp a structure, or is it made out of paving on grade?
Both. Sorry, this portion will be made on grade, the 1 to 20 portion. The 1 to 12 will be wood with a composite decking.
Do you need a railing on the 1 to 12 section?
Yes.
You do. Okay. Just a question.
Yeah, it does look like that is a steeper or higher than 30-inch drop off.
Yes, and here it is.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
The other thing.
And we would obviously be landscaping and now properly draining
Right.
and probably making sure the water is adequately the ground is adequately porous, or making it so.
You also should have a slight edge to the sloped walk. That's usually required if you don't have if you don't have an even grade, just so the wheel doesn't roll off. It's contained. I think it has to be 2 inches high. That just would be a little edge condition so that you don't end up slipping off to the side.
Another good point taken.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you again, Blair. Andrea, and then Steve.
So I think I understand it now. If you go to the plan, and this is more just an architectural question, the triangles created by the ramp and the octagon, that's all open. So if water were to get in there, it would drain through the ramp, which is open underneath the ramp, or does the ramp have closed walls underneath it?
First of all, these are planters, so will end up being
Oh,
planters.
they're planted.
And just there'd be some drainage through the structured portion of the ramp
Yeah.
and small deck. And this
Okay.
being on grade, we'd have to manage the drainage.
And I will leave this up to the landscape architects, but is there any concern of, drainage sloping down towards the rear of the yard, and does that need to be captured somehow, or it's nothing, it's gonna behave the way it always has? Does that make sense? you had that elevation with the mound, with the ramp mounded up, the earth. Does that create a drainage condition or not? I'm just thinking of the abutters if,
I think part of this would depend on how the existing roof downspouts are. Are they going into the, are they grandfathered into the sewage drainage system of the town, or are they flowing overland?
They end up on the surface.
Okay.
I'm trying to see if
I'm
we
having
have
a-
one. Oh, sorry. And interestingly, architecturally, there are no gutters in the house.
Hmm.
And so the roof runoff drips onto the land,
Right,
directly onto the soil.
right.
And while we did not do any excavation, I would imagine that it would be sandy loam or something with some porosity, unlike my house, which is less than half a mile away, which is all clay. So it surprisingly works quite well with a simple drip edge off the edges of all the roofs.
Hmm.
So there's apparent evidence that the soil is reasonably porous, and there's no evidence of drainage going onto the abutters.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, these are great points that you're making about drainage, planning board members, but keep in mind that before they get a building permit, the DPW will review all of the drainage issues before they sign off on this
Yeah.
plan.
As you may or may not be aware, our neighbors to the west are very adamant on stormwater management to the point of overkill often. But I think our square footage is below their provisions, not that it applies here. Just an FYI.
Thank you. We'll go to Steve next.
Thanks. So I also had a question about those triangular spaces between the ramp and the sunroom, but that was addressed. But Michael, if you could go to the basement plan, I'm okay with this project. I just had a technical question about the basement plan. I see that within the new octagonal sunroom, you say it's a crawl space. There's also a bulkhead door with looks like a couple of steps down. And then there's another sort of half flight of stairs between this new space and the existing basement. So I'm just wondering what's going on there. I mean, is it a crawl space or is it a full height space? And I'm just
There's
clear on the relationship of this addition.
That's a good catch, actually. And we've moved this bulkhead several times. There's no need for the owners have no need for additional storage in the basement. Therefore, to save costs, we're doing a continuous foundation, but we can keep it at 4 feet below grade. Yeah, but that is true. To get into this portion of the basement, the dashed line is the existing bulkhead access to the basement. We'll probably extend it here to make this the same level. But that is not on the drawing. I didn't catch that with my draftsman, and you did. So thank you, and we will correct that.
Yeah, and obviously doesn't affect the plans at all, but just right. It was, it was unclear relationship between what's basement and what's crawl space. So, okay,
Good catch.
fair enough.
I've,
That's it.
one, Michael, if you wouldn't mind just going to the exterior elevation right drawing. We've already talked about this, but just want to, you look at the far right-hand side of this where what is currently, as you mentioned, a very flat grade, by the time it gets to that last couple of feet before the property line is up a bit. Not that there's a ton that's shedding water there, but that is a condition right at the fence that obviously you'll need to look at with your drainage
Mm-hmm.
team. It's only for the length of the ramp that condition exists at the one edge of the driveway, but that could create some issues if you're not dealing with it up front.
Yeah, another point taken. And,
think there
yes, we
should-
don't have, we did take with our, yeah, just citing off of a 4-foot level, the existing floor, the existing grade, and trying to make trying to get this 1 and 20 so we didn't have to, do the full railings. So that part, we're not 100% sure about, but yes, we will address.
Did
the
you have any
drainage,
spot
any sort of
grades that you were
curbing.
working off of, Michael?
Sorry?
Did you have any spot grades that you're working off of? Or no?
No, because they didn't. We tried to put a contour. There's less than 1 foot of contour over the entire site.
Right, no, I understand that. It's just that for that sloped walk, if that whole area is fairly flat, you really would not have that angle. That looks like a drafting mistake that
At the back
you just
of the
picked up
site.
on, because if that site's flat, that elevation that you're showing more or less along the facade, the side facade would extend to the rear. So what the drafting seems to suggest is there's about a 2-foot drop off, and that doesn't seem like it's consistent with your experience of the site as being flat. So I think that needs a little bit of attention, because I don't think you drafted this correctly.
Would there actually be like a little retaining wall at the end of that?
But Steve, if it's a flat site, where did that slope show up from? There wouldn't be any
Well,
slope.
actually,
Well, it seems
the
like you're building up a
we're
ramp.
actually starting a bit of the slope from here at the driveway.
Yeah, but
Mounding up.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you go to that same elevation again, the elevation right, if you were to take the grade line on the far left-hand side and exactly horizontally extend it all the way, that's what Blair's saying. It wouldn't be as low in the back as you're
Right.
showing it.
Yeah,
So
but we are taking the driveway, and we're not starting here, we're starting about here
Mhm.
to
Yep.
extend
I
that
think-
ramp. in
But the
order to
backyard
make
and the
that
front
height.
yard relative to one another are aligned today, and you're showing the backyard lower in this drawing than today. That's
Yeah.
I
That's
think we
tough.
just, he need, I mean, as part of the building permit, wouldn't he need a site plan with the grades?
Well, again, there wasn't enough grade to show.
well-
Right.
But you're
we'll-
creating a grade and
Yeah,
that's,
we'll put in spot elevations, and we don't have a transit in the office, so we kind of did this with a homemade transit.
Well, it seems like at the end of your ramp on grade, before you go to a structure of decking on piers, you might just have a a 1 or 2 foot whatever retaining
Yeah,
wall
I think that's probably
with a fence, so so you're not creating a slope
yeah.
down.
And this is often done by the landscaper
Yeah.
in situ.
Right.
good. All right. Any other comments from the planning board? Linda?
Yeah, Linda here. Just I think the addition is appropriate. Looks like it, made for the house. Can you turn to the back elevation, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what there looks to be a shed over the entryway, but is it supported by something? Or might you carry that one angle across? I realize you want a covered entryway, which makes sense, but it's kind of flying in space there.
We don't have a good. Yeah, it's not very big, and that if we attach it both top and bottom, structurally it should be fine. Simply attach to the wall.
Huh, okay,
It's not big enough to need a bracket or a column.
okay, all right. All right, not sure what it does for you, but
Well, if you go back to
If
that
you're fumbling with
elevation-
keys, it keeps the rain off your head. So
Yeah.
well, kinda.
it
Unless
keeps
If you
it
go
off
to that
your
back
nose.
elevation, I think Linda's point is also, if you look at where that, it seems to end at a little bit of a weird spot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes.
Yeah,
I
that-
don't disagree.
beyond the deck.
I'm not getting it. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
just
it's just a drafting thing needs to be cleaned up, but
Yeah,
or if you really wanted to make it so that it was useful, maybe you'd extend the
Extend the deck.
octagonal roof straight over and end it there and maybe put a bracket on it. Because
Or
otherwise,
extend the deck.
it's not really doing
Make
anything
the
for
stair
you.
wider or move the deck over.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
put
yeah.
a column.
You know what? I remember the red line. I took that distance, projected vertical, it made that equivalent and did that.
Yeah, well,
And that's
it's,
that was my aesthetic judgment
Yeah,
at the
we're
time,
just-
and I think I'll
Okay.
reconsider.
right. We're just hot dogging here, we gotta earn our big salaries here. But just,
Yours is
There's some-
probably bigger than mine.
no, ours is 0.
No, well,
Anyway.
when I serve on the board, mine is several multiples of that, in fact.
Anyway, other than that, I think I'm glad that it's being done to this house, and I hope it satisfies the needs.
I have one other question. On the second floor where you have the EPDM roof,
Yes.
then you have shingles at the eave.
Yeah, we're trying to recreate this detail around so we don't have just a edge of rubber.
Hmm.
So it's a small decorative band to try to conceal the fact that most of it is rubber.
It's
Well,
too shallow of a slope for traditional shingles.
Correct.
Mhm.
Without blocking this window.
I'm just trying to picture that outside corner then
Actually,
at the edge. Yeah.
the line weight is to try to make this darker, but like here, we would be extending this plane for that short period there.
Mhm. Okay.
And yes, there will be several discussions with the framer and the roofer on site to work that out.
Yeah, that's a detail I don't think I've seen, like an EDPM roof
How
that
do you
then becomes shingles. But good luck with
Transition.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe metal would be more appropriate. Or something.
it might be easier to build too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but conceptually, I think we're all aligned with this project. Let's see if there's any members of the public who'd like to say anything. If you would, please use the raise hand function in the reaction at the bottom of the screen.
I can do a stop.
I'm not seeing any, so I think we can move to a vote.
I would agree with you, Matt, that we should strike number 2, which is the landscaping, because although occasionally the Board of Appeals has allowed an architectural feature to serve as a counterbalancing amenity, they don't really like to do that. But I would agree that it's an amenity, but it may not serve for 5.43. So you may want to just give the special permit under MGL 48 Section 6 and not have a counterbalancing amenity.
That seems appropriate to me. Anyone have challenges with that?
I'm okay with that.
Fine.
All right. So the planning board recommends approval of the site plan prepared by Charles J. Brennan, professional land surveyor, dated July 3rd, 2025. And architectural plans prepared by Michael Kim, registered architect, dated May 23rd, 2025. And the planning staff recommends the following conditions. Number 1, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit final floor plans and elevations stamped and signed by a registered architect, and a final site plan stamped and signed by a registered engineer or land surveyor to the director for regulatory planning or designee for review and approval. We'll skip number 2. The new number 2 will be number 3. This is prior to the issuance of the building permit, a construction management plan shall be submitted for review and approval by the building commissioner or designee. Number 3, prior to the issuance of a building permit for demolition or construction, a rodent control plan shall be submitted for review and approval of the director of health or a designee. And 4, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit to the building commissioner for review and approval, A, the floor plans, site plans, and elevations displaying the approval stamp of the Assistant Director for Regulatory Planning, and B, evidence that the Board of Appeals decision has been obtained from the town clerk's office by the applicant or their representative and recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You all spoke at the same time. Andrea, I'm going to say it was you. We'll do roll call vote. Andrea,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Blair,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So you have unanimous for the voters who are here tonight. Thank you for the preparation of the case, Cameron, and thank you, Michael, for the presentation.
Thank you.
The next case is 6769 Winthrop Road. I believe Mr. Allen and Ms. Duval are going to be here with us for this case. This is a two-family. It has a detached garage in the rear of the site, which is in disrepair and not structurally sound. And so they want to demolish that. It was found not significant. And they want to replace it with a garage of almost the same size. It will be about 2 feet taller, but it'll be in the same location. And so basically, the relief that they need is for the side and rear yard for the garage, which is not, the setbacks are not changing, but 6 feet is required. The existing and the proposed are both 0.3 feet for both the rear and the side. And again, this can be granted under section 5.43 or under section 40A, MGL chapter 40A, section 6. And I guess Mr. Allen will talk about which one he would like, which relief he would like to get. With that, I will turn it over to either Ms. Duval or Mr. Allen.
Thanks, Paulie. I'll take it for the record. Robert Allen, 300 Washington Street in Brookline Village, here representing Karen Weaver of 67 Winthrop. Alan Christ is also on. He's the architect who can walk you through it. I also have Karen Weaver and Michael Kaiser and Tom Harris, who's at 69. Basically, this is a two-family that was converted to condos. They have a garage, as Paulie said, in the back that's falling down. It's one of those ones where you kind of shake your head at the building department. Is it really worth having to go through this process? We're keeping it in the exact same location, but because it's 2 feet higher, we're extending that non-conforming condition 2 feet higher, right? So it's still at 0.3 and 0.3, but now it's 2 feet higher at 0.3. So they felt that that was an increase of a non-conforming condition and made us run through this process. So I don't need to speak much more. I'll turn it over to Alan. Alan, you can show some pictures and hopefully we can move this one along quickly.
Hi, my name is Alan Christ. I'm the architect for the project. We're proposing the demolition and reconstruction of an existing 2-car detached garage. It's 449 square feet. It's located at the rear of an existing 2-family structure. It's within a few inches of the property line. There's a significant downslope from the front to the rear of the site where the garage is located. Our intention is to reuse the existing foundation to minimize disruption to neighbors. Hence, we're using the exact same footprint for the garage. However, the existing garage is in very poor condition. I can go to some photos here. Sorry. Okay, it's a concrete structure with block walls. It has a very low ceiling. It's structurally failing. It has no parapet. It sort of just drains onto the walls here. So and the concrete and block structure is a heavier structure. So our intention was to minimize, to reduce somewhat the loading on the foundation by changing to a wood frame structure, which has a clear span through the provision of TJIs for the roof framing. And then it has an 8-inch parapet with proper parapet drainage. So this is what brought about the special permit, just the fact that the TJIs and a proper parapet increase, and also a realistic amount of space for a garage door opener increase the height of the structure, and those are the only things increasing the height. So it's the provision for a lighter structure with proper drainage and a proper parapet. The structure is 449 square feet. The setback is 3 inches from the side, and I think a 1/2 inch from the rear, although it's an angled property line here, so it's a bit of variation on the back. I can show you a 3D view of the structure here so you understand. The existing house is a yellow stucco arts and crafts style house with green trim and white windows. It's very much surrounded by trees, so not super visible from the street. The existing garage was all block, kind of a beige color, and so we were switching to a brick veneer that would sit on top of the existing foundation. There's decorative projecting brick coursing that projects a 1/2 inch and kind of defines the base of the structure here. Soldier coursing 2 rows above the garage door, and then a new man door on the side here, and a new guardrail on top of the existing retaining wall. So we were hoping to create, a modest structure that worked with the existing foundation and did not clash significantly with buildings in the immediate context. Otherwise, I
think that's good, Alan.
That's pretty
That's
good. Yeah.
good. Okay,
Good
all right,
job.
thank you.
Can you,
I'll talk as much as you want me to.
Well,
I think you're getting the hook.
That's good.
long night ahead of us.
So Attorney Allen, are you set for us to move to conversation?
Please.
All right. So a very, really nice set of drawings for a garage, Alan.
Yeah, really.
I appreciate the level of detail. Yeah, I interested what others think. This seems pretty straightforward. I think it's actually a nicer looking building after the replacement than even what's there. So looks like a nice replacement. We'll go to Blair and then to Steve.
yeah, I have no issues at all about the garage. I think a later structure does make sense on the existing foundation. Was there a survey done, Alan?
I'm sorry. Yes, there was a survey
'Cause the
done.
reason I'm asking is if you look at the center right picture, no, go there, go to the center right picture.
Oh, sorry. Back
That's
to
all
the
right.
photos. Okay. Too many drawings. Okay.
Yeah, just
Center
blow that up
right
a little bit
picture.
more. So the reason I'm asking is, yes, you're looking at exactly what I was looking at, which includes the tree looking like it's being pushed a little bit. I was wondering and looking at whether the surveyor actually picked up the location of that wall, because it looks like it's fragmenting. That I don't think that's before us, but I think that the condition of that wall, it would be advisable to take a look at that, particularly since the at the garage will require the vehicles being able to go along that driveway, and At least from this photograph, it looks dubious. I did not go to the site, so I don't know if how much slope those walls are holding back. But right where your hand is, it looks like the wall has shifted
Yes.
right there.
Yep.
So anyway, I would just
We'll look at
I
that.
have no
Thank
problem
you.
with
Yep.
approving this. I just think that as this thing gets started, you may want to have someone take a look at those walls. So whatever has to be
Agreed.
done is getting done.
Yep. Thank you for that, Blair.
Thank you, Blair. Steve, you're next.
I also have no issue with this, and I agree with Matt's compliments on the nice detailing of this garage. But I do have another technical question. I see on A4, the west elevation, there's a stair shown, and you also get a glimpse of it in the rendering, the three-dimensional rendering that you showed us. It's on the title page. I don't see the stair on the plans anywhere.
This is not a stair, it's a shadow.
That's a shadow? Huh?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's very confusing, and you are not the first person who has made that comment. We should have turned the shadows.
Yeah, we don't
off.
usually put
I
shadows
see.
on architectural drawings, Alan. I like your
Drawing
brick.
at noontime, so the sun was high, so he can't
I
help
see.
himself.
And so the rendering, the
Oh.
little vignette on the cover sheet,
It's
that's a
also
shadow too, huh? Boy, you
shadow
could have fooled
too,
me.
same
Okay.
thing.
All right.
Yeah, it was from the south. That's where the shadow is cast. It admittedly is pretty confusing, and we probably should have turned it off. But
Okay.
this is just a big blank concrete foundation wall that we will do a parge coat and spruce it up a bit, but that is to remain there and no changes in that area.
Okay. Oh, no changes and no stair. Okay. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you, Steve. We'll go to Andrea next.
Could you go to the site plan, please? Or
Architectural or survey?
g- yeah,
Architectural. I'll zoom in.
that
Uh,
one's good. Yep. So I have to ask about the trees. The tree in the back that's near grid line 1, yep. That's not on the property or is?
Not on their property.
And is will the construction of the garage affect the tree?
No, insofar as we're not changing the foundation. I mean, obviously, when they're building this thing, there's construction,
Yeah.
work that's happening, and they've been in discussion with the neighbors about
Okay.
this, but they will take every measure to protect adjacent trees and do what they can. Just not demolishing that foundation alone went a long way towards preserving that tree.
Right.
So
I just was thinking if you're going higher in the garage, would that affect anything? But it sounds like it won't. Okay.
no.
You can almost see the tree in a Google Street View, and it looks like the limbs start significantly higher than
Higher.
the top of the
Yeah.
garage, although you can't even see the garage. All right, thank you, Andrea. We'll go to Mark next.
Just one question. Did you have to get a tree protection permit to do the demolition of this garage? Mr. Allen?
Well, not for the demolition, but we'll have to do it for the construction, yeah, under the new
Yes.
bylaw. Because it's within 30 feet, obviously.
Yes.
So we'll have to have the plan in place of what we're gonna do to make sure that we don't.
I just have a question. How is it a 2-car garage?
It is.
And how wide is the garage door?
It's a 16-foot wide garage
Okay.
door.
Yep, I was just wondering.
Pretty standard.
Yep.
Did you have a follow-up to that, Mark?
Well, I was just wondering if you applied for the demolition permit yet.
Oh,
No?
no.
You might be surprised.
Oh, please. Oh, spare us. Okay.
Lynn, did you have anything?
No, I'm good. I'm really good.
Comfortable, everybody else on the board? We'll go to public comment. Any members of the public like to say anything on this case? If you do, please use the react button to hit raise your hand. Seeing none, I think we'll move on with a vote. So I'll make a motion. Planning board recommends approval of the site plan prepared by Peter J. Nolan, professional land surveyor, dated October 6, 2025, and architectural plans prepared by Alan Christ, registered architect, dated October 15th, 2025, with the following conditions. Condition 1, prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit final floor plans and elevations stamped and signed by a registered architect and a final site plan stamped and signed by a registered engineer or land surveyor to the Director of Regulatory Planning for review and approval. Condition 2, prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit to the building commissioner for review and approval A, the site plan, floor plans, and elevations displaying the approval stamp of the Director of Regulatory Planning, and B, evidence that the Board of Appeals decision has been obtained from the town clerk's office by the applicant or their representative and recorded in the registry of deeds. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And Polly, before we vote, just did you want to clarify which of the two tracks we should be taking for this one?
Well, I think I recall that Mr. Duval said that they wanted to get relief under MGL 48, Section 6.
That's correct, Polly. Thank you.
Just to get that on the record.
Special permit.
All right. So Steve, you second?
Yes.
All right, we'll do roll call vote. Steve?
Yes. Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. I think that's everybody.
Thank you all.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have 43 Kensington Circle.
Yep, so 43 Kensington Circle is looking to add a partial second floor and third floor addition to the rear of the house, as well as make adjustments to the basement and first floor. Again, Bob Allen and Ashley Duval are here to represent this application. The Preservation Commission did rule that it was not historically or architecturally significant, so they did not impose a stay of demolition on it. And I will let the applicant walk through it. They're looking for a FAR special permit for relief on FAR, and as well as a special permit for relief on the side yard setback.
Right. Great. Again, Robert Allen, 300 Washington Street in Brookline Village, here representing Young Fun and Young Shen, who are the homeowners at 43 Kensington Circle. And we have Lan Quinn and Dan Eldridge here, who are the architects on the project. As Cameron noted, this is a matter of first of all, I want to say the homeowners, we did a lot of reach out for the neighborhood there, Kensington Circle. It's a close-knit neighborhood there. They reached out 31, 39, 40, 49, 50, and 60. So they made sure the only feedback they got was the neighbor most impacted by it, the immediate abutter, wanted to make sure that the existing privacy screening was maintained, which of course we want to also. This is actually an old school edition. We're doing it under 522, which is allows us to go up to 120%. 5223B1B allows you to go up to 120% of the FAR. And I think our total comes to 119%. So we thought that was a better way of going about it. The proposal is to make some exterior additions to the home, with the bulk of the changes focused on the rear of the property. Lan did a really nice job keeping most of the new mass to the rear. There's a small little bump out in the front, and I'll have Lan come and explain it all to you. I think Ashley will walk through the plans, who's ever in control. So if Ashley could have the screen, and Lan, if you could just jump on, introduce yourself, and you can walk Ashley through the plans. Thank you.
See Ashley, there's one. Okay.
Oh, you, Lan.
Oh, hi. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lan Qin from Erk McNeely Architects. I'm the architect of this project. In the next 10 minutes, I will give a brief overview of this project. Let me share my screen first. Is that shared? Okay.
Yes.
I will start with from the owner's request. The owner of this house are both remote workers, and they have 2 teenager children, and one parent living with them. after moving in, they found many spaces inefficient and the circulation awkward, especially
Oh, did we lose her signal? I think she
Seems to have
froze.
frozen.
Should give her a couple more
our
seconds.
design approach focus on
There you go.
3 aspects.
Whoops.
Lynn, we lost you for a minute there. Maybe take your video off and it might be easier. You were freezing for a while.
Okay, I can go back. I can repeat what you just said. I will start with the owner's request of this house. Both owners are remote workers. They have two teenager children and one parent living with them. After moving in, they found many spaces inefficient and the circulation awkward, especially with the limited bathrooms across 3 generations. They came to us hoping to transform this house into a more functional and connected home. So our design approach focuses on 3 aspects: the neighborhood and style, functionality, and the presentment. Neighborhood and style. This single family house is located at 43 Kensington Circle in Chestnut Hill, next to the Skyline Park. The house sits among similar sized single family houses. These are the photos on the street. From the street view, it actually appears low on the northern side of the house compared to the other house in the neighborhood. So adding a level above this northern section became a natural massing decision. And this is the existing condition of the house. This is the front with only 1 level on the northern part and 2 levels on the southern part. This is the back view of the house. Functionality. Since the southern section works well, so we confined the major renovation addition to the northern part of the house to minimize the construction impact. The other thing I want to point out here is this is a split level house. So the floor naming can be a little bit unconventional. So this is a simple, a quick diagram. This will be called basement, ground floor, first floor, second floor. And the proposed addition will be called third floor, though it's right above the first floor. This is a comparison of the basement floor. So as you can see, that's the circulation core of the house. So on the first floor, I'm sorry, on the basement floor, there's a awkwardly shaped and a long path to the backyard, and there's a non-conditioned pool room block the view and access to the backyard. So we propose to remove this is what we proposed. We propose to remove the pool room, expand the living area, and create a direct access and open views to the backyard and the swimming pool. There's a existing swimming pool here. That's the basement. This is the first floor. It's the existing proposed. Currently the living room is oddly shaped with a corner fireplace, and the kitchen and dining are awkwardly positioned. So we propose to reconfigure an open plan, shift the living room towards the backyard with double height floor here, space here for light and views, and move the kitchen and the dining to the formal living area for better flow. And we also will rebuild the back deck to connect the ground floor and the upper levels. So that's the first floor. third floor, we are adding one floor above the first floor to accommodate a master suite with working closet and bathrooms. And we are also adding a bedroom for the daughter. That's the other bedroom. This floor will be connected visually, not just visually, actually also spatially, to the double height space, double height living room below. So this is connected. That's the floor plans. This is the gross floor area comparison. The bottom line is the existing, the above line is the proposed. These drawings these are on the drawings, so I'm not going to talk too much. I just want to point out that when we calculate the double height living space here, we weighted in the height using the formula from the zoning bylaw. The final gross floor area is 5,330 square footage in the zoning limit, which is no more than 20% over the allowed gross floor area with special permit. The next 2 pages is to show how the added floor will affect the building height. This is cutting the north-south direction. This one is cutting through the north section. So finally the proposed building height will be about 25 feet 6 inches, well below the allowed 35 feet. Proposed elevations. We have maximized the view with the large rear windows. That's the front. In the front, we also replaced a bow window with a modern bay. And for the northern part where we have the third floor addition, we also continued the south section's overhang massing language. I'm not sure if this can be read clearly. This part is actually in the back, in the back. That's the southern part. It has the existing house has a little overhang massing language. We continue this language for the visual harmony. That's the elevation. This is the perspective. This is the street view from the street. That's the replaced. I mean, that's the previous bow window. This is the backyard perspective from southeast, and this is another one from northeast perspective. This is the initial material palette. We are thinking of using the wood look slat panel to echo the existing rhythm. Because if we go back to the existing, it actually has some, they cannot tell here, has some vertical lines. So we kind of want to respect that, but with better refined finish and texture. So we are also thinking of using the white paint on existing brick wall. To thinking of
No, I think we
using
lost
hot
you.
punch the seamless modern facade. Am I back?
Yeah.
You're back. Yep, you just went for about 15
Am I
seconds.
back? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
We got
You're
it
fine.
all through the materials.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Last but not the least is the preservation of the environment. Because
Try turning your video off.
Lan, we lost you again.
Thank you.
Matt, I'm comfortable with
Oh,
the board
okay,
taking over
thank you.
discussions and then,
Should I?
oh,
Okay.
you're back on, Lan.
Yeah. Well, let's let her finish. She had one more thing
Sorry.
on environmental preservation.
Yep. Go ahead, Lan.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's my last page actually. So I will repeat this part again. Because the major renovation and addition sits mostly on the existing footprint, no tree will be removed.
That's
And the backyard remain unchanged. So not much impact for the landscape. That concludes my introduction.
That's all
Thank
we
you.
have, Mr. Chair.
That's great. Thank you very much, Lan, for taking us through all that. I don't have any immediate reaction other than that glass room on the back is very, very large, but if that's what the client wants, they're paying the heating and cooling bill. Members of the board, thoughts on the design as presented?
I'd like to see the back elevation again,
Back elevation, hold on.
the view from the rear, of the rear.
The view or the elevation itself?
Sorry, the elevation
Okay.
of the rear. What
This-
is the, I
this
know
is-
that you said the
This
building does not
is
increase that much.
this
What is the height from the pool deck to the gable end of the glass wall? It looks like it must be 30 feet or more.
that yes, it will be, let me see, I don't actually have an but from here to here is 25 feet,
I'm sorry,
6 inches.
Show me again, what's
And we
25
can do
feet?
the calculation.
I can't read the elevation.
From the midpoint of, let me,
It looks,
bring
I mean, I'm just
the-
trying to, if you put it back, that the cross section was perfect. Or you just, the plane you had just before.
let me zoom in. Yeah,
That's, just hold that one.
this,
So,
Okay.
Funny.
okay. So it looks to me that the rear elevation will be something like around 35 feet or so. Does the architects help me out here? Does that sound right to you?
That sounds about right.
That looks right.
Okay.
Yeah,
The opening
yeah,
and blue beam I
yes.
can measure. What do you
That was
actually
my
want?
question. That was my question. Thank you.
From pool deck to what level?
Well, to the top of the gable that you now see to the upper left-hand corner, Matt.
Yeah, it's like 25,
30.
10.
34 feet 5 inches to the
Okay.
top.
Thank you.
Matt.
I don't have any other questions or issues. Thank you.
Other members of the board?
No,
With this-
I'm good. This is Linda. It's surprising how small they look from the front roadway and how much the drop off, takes all this. So I don't have any questions really.
Right?
Other comments, anybody? I did go to Google Street View, and I do see what she was talking about with the projecting upper floor above the garage is a vertical wood slat, and the lower part is a horizontal brick. I didn't appreciate that it was wood, so articulating the new third floor on the front side in a similar way to what was already there, I think is a nice nod to that
Mhm.
material. Yeah, again, like what Linda says, from the front, it's a very modest change to get them a significant, I think, improvement in the layout of the living space and more living space. And yeah, I don't have any concerns. All right, if no other members of the board have thoughts, we'll go to.
I'll make one last thought then.
Go ahead, Blair.
I think the main thing is, it certainly is going to look quite, I think, nice in terms of the relationship to the street. I think it's going to be fairly prominent in terms of its relationship with the park behind it. I mean, it's a pretty grandiose facade there. I'm not going to oppose it for that way. I just think it's going to really be very prominent for anyone who's walking in the woods behind it. But I don't think there's any proximate trails because I think there's a road between
Yeah, yeah.
the woodland and the road that goes along the edge of Skyland Park. So I think that means that it won't be, I think, particularly noticeable given the natural screening. So I will vote in favor of this.
And from the back, the neighboring homes on both sides are actually quite tall in the back too. It's not
Yeah.
out of scale
Yeah.
with those.
I agree. Okay.
All right. Are there members of the public who would like to make a comment on this case? If so, please use the raise hand function under the react button. All right. Seeing none, I'll make a motion. Where is... All right, the planning board recommends approval of the site plan prepared by Bruce Bradford, professional land surveyor dated August 5th, 2025, and architectural plans prepared by Lan Quinn, registered architect dated September 10th, 2025, and we recommend the following conditions. Number one, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit final floor plans and elevations stamped and signed by a registered architect and a final site plan stamped and signed by a registered engineer or land surveyor to the Director for Regulatory Planning or designee for review and approval. Two, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit a landscape plan subject to the approval by the Director for Regulatory Planning. We actually don't have counterbalancing amenities, do we? So I'm going to skip condition 2, strike that. The new condition 2 will be what was listed in under condition 3. That will be prior to the issuance of building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit to the building commissioner for review and approval, A, the floor plan, site plans, and elevations displaying the approval stamp for the Director of Regulatory Planning, and B, evidence that the Board of Appeals decision has been obtained from the town clerk's office by the applicant or their representative and recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Matt, just let me jump in. We will
Yeah.
need CBAs. We will need counterbalancing amenities on this because we're doing this under 522.
We didn't talk about those. Are they within the site plan or?
Yeah, we'll put something together for Polly's review, but we have some landscaping and we're beefing up a little bit the screening that the neighbor had some concerns about. So
Okay.
I
So-
just wanted to put that on the record, and Polly will fix that by the time we get to the ZBA, I'm sure.
All right, I appreciate this. So condition 2, I'll just read it for the record. Prior to the issuance of building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit a landscape plan subject to the approval by the Director for Regulatory Planning. The counterbalancing amenities must be executed in accordance with the approved plan. So that'll be condition 2, and what I said would be 2 would actually go back to being 3. Clear as mud. It's written down. So
Thank you.
Andrea did the second, so we'll do roll call vote. Andrea,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Linda,
Bye.
Blair,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So thank you very much. Nice work, Len.
Very nice.
Thank you.
All right. We have now 43 Fairgreen. I'm gonna get some more water. I'll be right back. And we'll
That's the
pick
last one?
the last
That
one.
is the
Yep.
last
Okay.
one, although it may be.
It's
Yep.
gonna be a long one.
Yep.
Right back.
Sure. There goes some of the water too.
right, thank you for your patience. Who's going to do this one, Polly or Cameron?
Cameron is going to present this.
All right.
Yep. So 43 Fairgreen Place, they are applying to subdivide into 3 lots and build a single family home on each of the 3 lots. They do have a stay of demolition from the Preservation Commission, which will expire on January 28th of 2026. Each of the 3 houses are fairly similar and fairly similarly sized with very similar gross floor areas. They are requesting a relief for only design review. I will warn you that the blueprints that are shown online have them as they originally were with an elevator included, which in that case they needed height relief as well. But since then they have removed the elevators from their plans. I'm sure that will be shown when it's shown. So they no longer need the height relief. They are only here for design review, and that's because of the stay of demolition that was imposed. Again, this is a Ashley Duvall and Bob Allen case.
Thanks, Cameron. Mr. Chair, members of the board, again for the record, Robert Allen, 300 Washington Street in Brookline Village, here representing Aces Development LLC. Jeff Birnbaum is the owner rep who's here tonight. We also have Chris Russ is the architect, if we could bring him up. So obviously this gained a lot of interest from a lot of people. I just want to give a little bit of background so the board can understand if you hadn't had a chance to get up there and look around. This development is probably one of the first condos ever in the state. And likely the earliest cluster development in the town. The large lot sizes reflect the need to meet the cluster development requirements that were in place at the town. That's why you see such big lots and all the clustered condo units. The owner of this lot, who was the initial developer, but actually brilliantly kept his property out of the condo association. So the condo association was all around him, and he kept his property away from just as a single family home, which gave him the ability for future development and arguably more value for his property. When he decided to sell it, it sat on the market for a while before it was presented to the development community, and the development community saw an opportunity to build 3 houses because it qualifies for 3 lots. This is actually a T6 district, which is a little bit unique because it's kind of surrounded by these S districts. You don't see a ton of T districts in this part of town. The Preservation Commission in its wisdom determined that this structure is historically significant because we did not return to commission to lift the stay, and since the property lies within a T district, a special permit for design review under 5.09 is required. That is the sole reason, as Cameron said, that we're here tonight. If the 2 dissenting members of the Preservation Commission who did not consider the building significant had prevailed, this project probably would be under construction right now and we wouldn't even be here tonight, but we are here. I know the board received about 22, 23 letters expressing concerns with the proposal. We certainly appreciate the time people spent in sharing their thoughts, and I believe Chris will address some of these issues as he goes through his presentation. I do want to address a couple points up front. First, regarding communication, because I always hate to see that. I have maintained open lines of communication with the attorney for the condo association. In fact, I went back and looked at our emails. We first started corresponding about this project in January of this year. I've responded to his concerns promptly. We shared any relevant information that came into my possession, and we continued to communicate right up to yesterday. So we've continued to talk about it. Sometimes you can work things out, and some tweaks were made as a result of some of the feedback I got, including taking the elevator down, not dealing with, I personally don't think the elevator should have counted in the height, but I didn't want to fight that battle, and we took it off because I know some people took offense to it. So again, that took the variance issue off the table. I know I saw a lot of that in the writing. While the initial project did have that elevator, we revised it. So we're just here. We're 100% compliant with all dimensional requirements in this district. Most of the concerns in the letters really related to density, height, and the setbacks of the building. In other words, the underlying issue is opposition to the actual zoning district itself. As again, it is unusual to have a T district, but we do have this in place. That is the only objective standard that any developer can use or any homeowner can use when they want to benefit from it. The underlying development benefited from being in this T district, which allowed this cluster development to take place in the first place. And that is what we built off of, and that's what we complied with the T zone. I believe people will be pleasantly surprised by the drainage design. While we are expanding from 1 house to 3, the current site allows water to flow naturally in any direction. As you know, we'll need to comply with the Brookline Stormwater Bylaw, arguably one of the strictest that I've come across, ensuring that all runoff remains contained within the property. Regarding the ledge, we've decided to build on grade, meaning there'll be no basement level. This approach will significantly limit drilling and reduce noise impacts on nearby neighbors. However, since we're not including any basement, we've had to add the 3rd floor to maintain the home's marketability. Again, we are below the height requirement allowed in this district. So again, we're strictly here for design review and look forward to presenting the design to the planning board and hearing some feedback. Chris has put together some streetscape renderings and additional drawings that will help put the project in context. We understand that a project involving 3 new buildings typically involve more than 1 meeting with the board, and we certainly look forward to a productive discussion with this planning board to hear some feedback. With that, I'll turn it over to Chris Russ, and he can walk you through the presentation.
Thank you, Bob. Chris Russ, architect for the project. I'm going to share my screen and bring up some drawings. So Bob touched upon a few things. I may have a couple things that I mentioned a second time. So again, the zoning that we're in is a T6 zoning. We are allowed a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet. Each of our lots are compliant.
Chris, could you make that just a little bit larger?
Oh, sure.
Room on the screen.
Let's see.
That's good.
Do
So
that
people
there
can
so I
see
can-
that it's off of Newton Street. If people know where the Exxon gas station is, you're right at kind of kitty
that's sitting
corner.
there.
of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the reason we have this here is to talk a little bit about the density. The blue squares drawn here are our new buildings proposed overlaid on the GIS map. And for comparison, the first section I'll talk about is the lower section, which is 9 units 9 through 33, and it includes this little bit of a island space in the middle as well in the area count. But the lot square footage per unit is 8,405 square feet. The second one I'm going to talk about is the upper section up here, which is a little bit larger land area, has 9,205 square feet per unit. The next section is our neighbors here, 55 through 67. That lot area per square is 7,212. And our lot area per unit is 7,061.
Can you point
square
out the
feet.
country club to people? I think that'll be interesting.
The country,
Everybody knows it. The country club.
the country club land is,
Right. So this overlooks the
way.
country club.
Yep.
Yes.
yep.
Does the golf course abut the property to the upper left? The town golf course along
This-
there?
That I believe is the country club, and down further, I'll pull up
Okay,
a quick
thank you.
larger reference. So I believe this lower section here is the town course, and this is still a portion of the country club.
Got it. Thank you.
Back over here. So that was this drawing here. The next slide is a blow up of this showing our proximity to the neighboring building. So lot 1 up here on the upper left-hand side, at the front street side, from our proposed building to the existing building is 19 feet 3 inches. At the rear portion of the building is 32 or 34 feet 2 inches. Lot 3 down on the lower side on the front is 31 feet 2 inches, and at the back side or rear side of the buildings is 34 foot 3 inches. And then just for reference, the footprints of the condo units are approximately 50 feet by 32 feet. And that is this section here, from just kind of a rough number, not including the carport section. And our footprints are 47 feet 10 inches. So that would be here versus 35 feet this direction here. Moving along to the next slide. This here is engineering drawing. It's showing that we complied to usable and landscape open space, the different hatches and calculations. This next slide is a little bit easier to read. So start at lot 1. Lot 1 is 5,863 square feet, which is this lot here. Lot number 2 is 5,781 square feet, which is this here. And then lot 3 is a slightly larger lot, just because of the way the configuration of the property is 8,646 square feet. And from a grading, and we'll look at some street images and things that'll help explain this a little bit more, but from the lower side of the street here to the upper side is approximately 3 feet of grade change from the street edge. The proposal is to have relatively flat sites that kind of rise up with the street as it moves along. These images are images of image 1 is existing house. Image 2 is 33 Fairgreen, which is one of our neighbors. Image 3 is 59 and 63 Fairgreen, which is actually one neighbor removed. Just their house is quite well screened with some vegetation, so we couldn't get a good view, but they're all very similar houses. And then across the street from us is 48 and 50 Fairgreen, which is a traditional colonial style building with clapboard and shingle. Other reason we have these photos is to talk a little bit about the design of the neighborhood and vernacular of details and things like that. And one thing we're trying to do is be sensitive to sort of the mid-century modern design of these buildings that are direct neighbors. And a few of the things that kind of pop out when walking through, and when we walk through design, we're trying to use some of the similar design cues. One of them is sort of these horizontal projections. This here happens to be a carport for the units, but they are quite prominent. There's some more horizontal bandings up at the upper levels. There's a brick bookend kind of feel where the brick kind of wraps around. And then we have a material change with some windows in the center. And we look at our designs, we're using these design cues and applying them to our design in a manner. And then similar with the existing house, the basement is a brick basement, or sorry, ground floor is a brick facade. And then the second floor above it has quite a few projections that come out, and in our design we're trying to use some of these projections to scale the house. And you even see a little bit of that up on these more traditional units where there's a roof band that runs through that area to help break the massing down a little bit. And then now we'll jump into the design of the buildings. And to save time, lot 1 and lot 2 are exact matches. It's just lot 2 is a mirror image. So we'll go through lot 1, and then lot 3 is a slightly different design because it's perpendicular. So we'll look at that in a little bit more detail too. So this here is all of our zoning information showing that we conform to setbacks, FAR, and open space and everything, so fully conforming structures. Image 1 down here is the front elevation. We have a 14-foot wide garage door at the ground floor, and our main entrance here, which is a mudroom, and then a stair system that brings us up to the first floor. First floor here, this is a kitchen window. These smaller windows are a bathroom and a powder room. And then up on the second floor here, this is a bedroom suite. And on the elevation here, you see this brick, trying to use that brick bookend detail that's on the existing structures, transitioning over to a wood material, and then sort of using some projections out of stucco to help break down the massing, and then moving over to these horizontal lines would be a nickel gap type siding that has a horizontal running feel similar to the traditional buildings that are up on the hill from us. This right side elevation, these stacked windows are the stairs. So we have a landing and then stair system run up, and then a landing and stair system run up. So that's what these are. And then a couple bedroom windows up here up in the primary suite. And then you see some railings for deck on the roof and then decks on the first floor. This here is the rear elevation with some glazing and doors out to a grade patio at the rear overlooking the golf course. First floor here is a dining room, family room with a deck out off onto that overlooking the golf course as well. And then up above is master or primary suite here with larger windows and then nickel gap siding. And again, the brick detail comes out with that bookend feel of the existing buildings, and then the banding and projections, and some of those things we'll see a little bit better in the 3D drawings. And then floor plans, here is the ground floor, garage, mechanicals, and then mudroom space, and then room for TVs. First floor here is main living space with kitchen, dining room, living room, family room. Second floor is 3 bedrooms. And then roof plan here showing hatchway and deck space. So your cross section through, and again, all 3 buildings utilize the same cross section. So the ceiling height from ground floor to its ceiling is 9'1". The first floor ceiling height is 9'10", and then the second floor, the bedroom floor, is 9'4" for ceiling heights. And here you can see some of these projections similar to what have for the carports and things like that, using a similar detail. And then lot 3 is laid out perpendicular to the others. So the front here with the garage doors, same size garage and everything. Drive in, this is similar, very similar to what the other 1 and 2 have. And then the right side elevation is actually the elevation that as you come up Fairgreen, you see this elevation, but we don't have a lot of windows on it. So we're not sort of overlooking that at all. The top elevation, this is left-hand side, is the elevation that overlooks the golf course with a deck, large windows for the dining room, kitchen space, and living room space. Floor plans very similar to what we were just looking at on the other lots. This one just orients the living room and deck towards the golf course. Then we have our roof deck. These are sort of on the right-hand side, inspirational photos that we looked at and thought had a lot of the interesting banding that the existing buildings have. trying to mimic some of that, using material changes to help scale the buildings down, is what kind of picked up from these. This image down here is garage doors that have a opaque glass, so they don't feel as heavy as like a wood solid garage door. But we still have a garage door that cars won't be seen when they're parked inside. Image above is image of a weather shield type window or similar that we plan on using, showing kind of the large contemporary style window. Moving to the left, this is glass railings. We're trying to use glass railings that have very minimal feel to them, so they don't stand out, but we still want to have some kind of top edge from a visual standpoint. So when you're on the deck using it, you get a sense that there's an edge that you can bump against versus having no edge, which sometimes is a little awkward for folks that get a little bit vertigo. Moving down and to the left, this is image of nickel gap siding, which is the horizontal siding that we'd be using. Above that is a whitewashed brick that we'd be proposing for the brick portions, and then a stucco image for kind of the projections where we're popping and pulling a few pieces out in those areas. And then down below, this is the wood material that would be kind of at the center of the front elevations to help kind of warm them up and break them down and scale a little bit. Here we have landscape plan. And what this is showing, these larger circles are existing trees that are, these are, I think, on the golf course side. This is an existing tree that's straddling the property. And then there's a few others over here that are off property. The idea here is, and when we look at the street views, is to create a line of street trees at the front of the property to help filter the buildings behind them. And then back in the side is create some privacy between the units. There's some trees along that. And then the butters that we're closest to, we're proposing sort of a green line of arborvitae trees along the lot 1 left-hand side. And then on lot 3, we're proposing pretty heavy vegetation line here to help screen us from the neighboring property. And then this is, top image is a panoramic image of the street looking at our property. This is 33 Fairgreen, and then this is 55 Fairgreen up here. And then behind us is the 44, I believe it is. So this image number 3, we'll start on that side, is a very close comparison to if we're looking at this portion. Fortunately, the programs don't quite do the fisheye when we do the panoramic view, so this is possible. So standing across this existing tree here is this existing tree and existing vegetation. So lot 3 is pretty well screened from existing vegetation. And then what we see here is the proposed arborvitae wall blocking or helping screen the 33 Fairgreen. And next to it, this is lot 2 here. And then on this number 2 image, now we're looking at lot 1 and lot 2. And this is the 55 Fairgreen, which is this here above. Something else to note here, from the ridge of the ridge of 55 to the height of lot 1, we are 6 foot 8 inches higher than its ridge to here. And lot 3 to lot 33, the height difference is 8 foot 2. from this ridge to our roof. So we are, excuse me, 8'2" is from this to here. And if we jump to this photo to lot 48 or unit 48, which is traditional units up on the hill, those are sitting 8'6" higher. So its ridge here is 8'6" higher than our tallest point on our building. This view here is looking up Fairgreen as if you're driving in off of the street. Here, lot 3 is very well screened with the vegetation. Before you get to this is the existing driveway for going up to 33. And then the screening trees, or the street trees that are helping screen and filter the buildings from behind are here. And then image number 2 is looking down as if you're driving towards the main street. This is 55 and this is 48 up here on the hill. Again, screening trees here. There's an existing tree that's on the edge of 33 that would remain, that actually provides quite a bit of screening for us. And then our street trees that are running down along the side. And then these, so the bottom 2 images are of our site, kind of straight on images showing, again, our street trees. The brown in here is that wood material that talking about. This here is the nickel gap horizontal siding, and then this sort of L-shaped piece here would be the stucco siding, and then this here would be a brick. And the upper images, image number 3 is looking from, sorry, this should say 55, not 57. Driveway looking down Fairgreen towards the street and seeing the screening and existing vegetation. And then view number 4 is looking from unit 31's garage space, so that what we're seeing is 33 in the foreground before we get to our lot number 3. And that is the presentation I have, and welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. Attorney Allen, do you have anyone else on your team who wants to share anything? Or
No, looking forward to some feedback, Mr. Chair.
All right, appreciate that. I've been simultaneously looking at photographs of the area and the plans on my second screen, so apologize if I wasn't looking at the camera the whole time. Just want to clarify, so the subdivision of the lot is done, right? So the lines between the lots and then the corresponding setbacks are what you're having to stay within, correct?
Correct.
So we are looking at, and I'll frame this for the board, but I'm happy to get pushback. I think we would frame this as design review of 3 separate buildings that happen to be being proposed at the same time, but it's not a single structure. They just happen to be the same building 3 times, but I think from my perspective, I'd love to push on, could they start to have more difference than similarity, particularly with regards to the massing. I don't have an issue with the scale. I'm a little concerned that they look like you designed one building and put it 3 times. And yes, that's what the condos are. But these aren't condos, these are single family homes, replacing a single family home. So I'd love to think about whether or not there could be some articulation that's different between the one that's closest to the shorter neighbors. Obviously, the one that's closest to the taller neighbor has a different context. And I recognize that the 2 on the left have significantly more setback space at the rear. The one that's turned 90 degrees relative to those is pretty much hemmed in by the setback, so that's not gonna change significantly, but I think its appearance as a rotated building might be something we could comment on. Is there a way to articulate that such that the building does not look like it's turned sideways, but looks like the side is actually the front some way? But that's how I'm sort of thinking about it myself, but I'll open up to members of the board to provide their thoughts. Blair, your hand went up first. We'll start with you.
First, I want to appreciate your comment about the repetition and the need for a little bit of differentiation. And I think, again, reinforcing your comment, the building that's turned 90 degrees doesn't present a very interesting facade to the street for this neighborhood, and I think deserves a little more thought. The other thing that's just more technical issue, and perhaps you know the answer, Attorney Allen, which is I believe that a garage that's facing front can only be 60% of the facade. I believe that's correct. Is that correct here with these
40%,
40%.
which
And that's-
we do comply with.
Yeah, we comply.
That's where the
Back to that.
14 feet is, yep.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have to say at this point. Thank you.
I will note that Linda Hamlin has done mid-century work before, so I'm also interested in her thoughts on that stylistic reference, because I don't see the reference images as mid-century, but clearly in reading a little bit of history, the condos came after the house and were intending to pick up on the mid-century detailing of the house, not the other way around. So now in this case, the house will be gone, the condos become the context, but they're not authentically mid-century the way the house.
No.
So thoughts on style would be welcome as well, Linda.
Okay, well, okay. Sort of very immediate things. Even though you may comply with the garage door business and the 40%, the one thing you find in the other units around this, where you have a carport, that almost strikes me as a mitigating garden feature. I mean, it has sort of a lightness, so it doesn't, yes, it's going to house cars, but it comes off much better than these really, I mean, what you see, it is big garage doors. And, I'm sorry you had to design it that way. It seems to me you had the opportunity possibly of even sharing a driveway and putting the entrances in on the side, so you're not really seeing just, the garage doors, which we know will then have cars parked in front, and it's not a good look. I'm if on other projects, people know that I'm against roof decks when not necessary. To me, this seems very unnecessary. And I can acknowledge the neighbors' privacy concerns. You've got, these aren't stacked units. This is one house, and you've got, patios and balconies, and, I just think there's no need for them. And I think they're unnecessary. And as Matt said, and also Blair, the idea of just, these cookie cutter things, and like, we'll put one here and we'll put one here on the cookie sheet, and it's the same cookie. The idea that view is on the face, that needs work. I would not pass that. I just think it's an affront, really. It's not neighborhood friendly. And I think you could use a lot of friends in this neighborhood, and that might help you. And sort of the landscape plan was obviously just putting some blobs on a piece of paper, and I think that will also be necessary to really treat it as another artistic plan. I mean, it just can't be, we'll plop a tree here, there, and there. it's got to contribute to the whole three families here. Anyway, those are my first thoughts.
All right, thank you, Linda. We'll do Steve and then Andrea.
I share some of my colleagues' concerns about the repetition of what are going to be, you know, multi-million-dollar, fairly large single-family houses, and why are they, you know, maybe a lot 3 is a little bit bigger than the others, but other than the fact that it's turned 90 degrees, doesn't really, you know, have any difference in character. But I want to get back to a more fundamental sort of from the start. You know, the neighbors have raised concerns about the clear cutting of this property. And I'm curious to know whether that was done, where that stands in relation to the town's tree preservation ordinance. Was it done prior to the, you know, stricter ordinance? And what's the developers or what's the attorney's response to the situation with the clear cutting of these lots?
It was done prior to the bylaw going into effect.
But even the previous bylaw has some.
We were in full compliance. We made the town aware. We were in full compliance. Steve, I've never seen tree companies as busy as they were this spring here in Brookline.
Prior to the adoption of the stricter
we
bylaw.
spent a lot of time to make sure we were in compliance, and we knew this bylaw was coming, and this bylaw is awful for development, and I encouraged my clients to address any issues prior to proceeding with development, prior to this bylaw going into effect.
And then also in kind of the run up to this, I mean, I noted in many of the neighbors, I mean, this seems like a very close-knit community of people who are clearly not thrilled about change. But notwithstanding, Mr. Allen, your exchanges with the attorney for the condominium, it seems like not facing the residents, this very well-defined community, you know, sort of has put you in this situation where you've got several dozen neighbors who are really upset, maybe more upset than they actually need to be. I mean, when I take a step back and I look at, you know, the complaints about not respecting the mid-century character, I think there's a reasonable, yeah, in the details, maybe it could be better, but listening to the architect's description of some of the character of the existing structures, and there are complaints about scale and density, and I look at the structures to either side, the 8-unit townhouse complexes. One of them is like 280 feet long, the other one is over 260 feet long. They're big structures, you know, these, and as the architect points out, these structures at 3 stories with flat roofs do not exactly dwarf the 2.5-story structures with low pitch roofs. So if you read the neighbors' comments, it sounds like this is the worst thing that's ever happened. It's not, but it could be a lot better, and the process could have been a lot better. So, as Linda pointed out, frankly, I think these garages look better than those big carports with this, you know, gloomy spaces underneath them. But there have been a couple of successful developments in Brookline where a shared driveway leads to side-facing garages where you can actually have a decent street front and not a garage door, even if it's, you know, conforming to the 40% of the front facade requirement. So I think there's some more that can be done with this project. I wouldn't say, you know, we have to, you know, kick it down the road and forget about it, but it could be better, and I'll stop there.
Thank you, Steve. We'll go to Andrea next.
Okay, I wasn't able to go out to see the site, so having the photographs was very helpful. And I agree a little bit with everyone. I think we all have, you know, are seeing the same thing. I agree with Steve that I don't think it's as bad as the neighbors think. I feel the scale is okay. I agree with Linda on the roof decks. I do want to comment on the garage doors again, and also the use of arbor vitae for the screen. I think that just as much as Linda doesn't like the roof decks, I don't like the arborvitae. It's like a lazy way to landscape.
I hate arborvitae. Thank you, Andrea.
And it's not in the spirit of the neighborhood where it's very open and flowing, and to just build this screen of thick trees, even in the rendering, it's not working. It's not screening, and I'd rather see more trees as a way to sort of filter views from neighbor to neighbor. And going to the garages, we had another case earlier that had I think it was, how wide was it? 18 feet, 16? And this one is 14. And I really don't think that's realistic. I don't really want to see the garage doors get bigger, but I feel like if you looked at the plan, it would be tough to get those two cars to come out in the units 1 and 2. Unit 3 has a bigger garage because it's turned to the side and has a longer facade. But the 1 and 2 were limited by the 40% rule. So I also would like to see other suggestions of moving the garages to the side. At first I was a little upset about the garages in front, but then understanding that the other condos have the same situation, I just don't think they work on the front though. So my biggest comments were the garage locations and the landscape as screening. Just try to put a little more thought and attention into that in terms of the bigger picture of the community. And I guess the way that the architect described the incorporation of the elements of the mid-century, it made sense while he was talking about it and referencing the existing buildings, but then I don't really see it happening in these elevations.
I agree.
The deep L-shaped overhang is sort of a more, 2000s look, and I guess it doesn't really have a clear direction. So I guess it needs to be decisive. Is it trying to pick up from the adjacent architecture, or is it want to be something totally different?
Thank you, Andrea. Blair or Mark?
Well, I have to say, I disagree with my colleagues. I like the buildings. I think that if the buildings are mirrored, that's probably enough said about the difference in the look. If you look at the existing development, and I guess I'm going to get railed for this, but the existing development is basically 1 or 2 steps up from, garden apartments, and but they don't have flat roofs. They have shallow roofs. Everybody parks in front of their units. It's I think this is a step up in terms of the organization of the site. I like the units. I don't like the fact that you have a blank facade facing out of the site, which would represent that third building. Maybe there's something you can do with that building, but I just think that these buildings are a step up from what's there now.
I could point out that the 2 of the existing buildings, I guess 9 to 11 and 23 and 25 also have a even longer facade than the facade on this unit 3, that with 1 window in the center. So similarly blank facades on the existing. Those are the 2 family structures that you drive past on your way into the site.
But do we want to encourage that?
No, it's an example of the pot calling the
I
kettle
see.
black in my mind.
Yeah, they've got more windows. They've got 3 or 2.
Let's, Blair has his hand up now. Go to you, Blair.
Yeah, I just want to echo a comment that was made earlier that these are multi-million-dollar buildings, and that a little bit of individuality, I think, would go a long way. I also think the landscape plan is diagrammatic, and I think, again, these buildings and this neighborhood, deserve a little bit more thought. I think I think it was Linda was characterizing it as blobs, or it might have been Andrea. But that really doesn't represent much more than what, a couple of hours of work for a project that's like this up against the back of the country club. These are very valuable, and I think you should spend a little more effort in showcasing these. That's my last comment. Thank you.
But I'd love to get, if you're all willing, some fairly specific direction to the architectural team that they could actually think about and react to. One I might suggest is thinking differently about the starting point. Your reference images, I don't think relate to the building that's being replaced, nor to the adjacent. So that it's not contextual. If it's not going to be contextual, it could be anything. But if it is going to be contextual, it might be advisable to draw from the building that's being replaced. As I look at the side of the current 43 that faces the golf course, the ground floor is a brick material. The second floor is largely glass with what I assume is some kind of a wood siding, but there's a projection, there's a change in plane. And on the back side, the second floor mass is broken into two projecting bays, or a recessed entry bay, however you read it, with a nestled in balcony. So there's a formal language that's not cubic like the current massing you have now. I think the push and pull and play between those forms, and then the use of multiple materials to help. So you never get a 3-story reading of any one material. It's a 2-story reading or a 1-story reading above another, I think would help. Looking at the 27 Fairgreen is the one that I have photographs on online. That's a 2-story volume. And then the carport, kind of intersects that. So I think there are some visual references that might be helpful. It's sort of like it started as a block and then got decorated, and it really hasn't yet pushed and pulled on the massing in a way that creates interest in the massing, but also perhaps interest in the relation of the interior rooms. There's not that this is part of our purpose. There's no sectional interest. It's basically 3 flat slabs. There's with a house like this, I would imagine you'd want some kind of sectional interest. Obviously, the building that's there now has a fantastic view, and some way to have that view translate to the inside, I think would be something to consider. Just go around the room again to see if others have.
That was really helpful, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, similar ideas that might be helpful. Linda, when we go back to you.
No, I agree. It's the mid-century modern expert on one hand. No, I really appreciate what you just said. And right now, these don't look any different than any of the spec things we're seeing in North Brookline, which you kind of paste different materials on at different square places. And, it just, they don't read as anything special at the price that you're probably putting in. Anyway.
Thank you, Linda. Steve, your hand's up.
So I didn't take my hand down, but I will I think Andrea made a good point that, one of the features here that really is kind of more contemporary that I don't think works is the projecting plane that comes out on one side of the building and then goes horizontal around the roof. That is a feature that I've never found particularly attractive, and certainly does not remind me. I'm not the mid-century modern expert that Linda may be, but
I'm kidding.
I know.
Please.
But I don't think that's helping, and I'm also not sure about. I think Matt made some good points about trying to sort of. I see it a little bit here, like the lower level with the garage is different materials than the change in color and material in the upper 2 stories. But Matt's point about trying to differentiate the stories, I think this does it a little bit, but I don't like that continuous projecting vertical and then horizontal bit of stucco. I'm not sure that the stucco works here at all. I don't know what that is adding to this palette of materials.
Yeah, as you probably know, Russ, there are a number of really well-maintained mid-century houses around Brookline that might be another source for some material palette ideas. Even the project we just saw before this with the very thin vertical wood siding, we see that in a lot of the older mid-century. And again, I'm not pushing mid-century. I just think this is a great opportunity to celebrate that style on a site where that existing house was a great example of that part of the architectural history of the town, and it might be something to embrace as you're going down the path of sort of talking about it, like literally like see if you can't get closer to the detailing, material choices, and some of those things, but not single pane windows. Those didn't work. But the amount of glass, I mean, particularly where you've got beautiful views out the backside, you know, large expanses of glass do make sense.
Well, I certainly think we ought to continue this
Yeah.
case.
Well,
Yeah,
there's some neighbors that want to talk.
Yeah, and I was hoping if we had any other direction that would just give some more sort of foundational feedback. I've been actually looking to see if there are examples of three level mid-century actual mid-century houses, and not really, but a lot of the ones in California that were built on cliff sides have some formal, I mean, this is not California, but that's where the mid-century started to deal with a height that's more than 1 or 2 stories. There might be something there as well. All right, so if we don't have any other comments from
Peter,
Peter, go ahead.
The architect also talked about the windows at the stairs, but like they don't, the first floor window, if you go to the elevation, was sort of staggered mid-floor, but then the other two were aligned with the floor. So I think there's some more room for some play, and I liked Matt's idea of like some push and pull of the massing. I don't think some of the neighbors' comments were that it didn't have a sloped roof. I don't think the sloped roofs in the existing condos are that successful, but there may be a way to introduce a sloped roof for like one portion of the facade or something that's different that might help break up the massing of the box.
Yeah, again, just because I'm simultaneously digging the Peacock Farm Historic District in Lexington is another hotbed of this period of homes. It's not Brookline, but it is New England. It's not that far away, and they do have some long, low sloped roofs with some asymmetry. That's not all that different from the condos that are surrounding it. So it might be another roof form to think about rather than, to Steve's point, that 90-degree bend is a motif that we've seen for the last probably 15 years. I think it's already a little dated, and it will not age well. So this might be, go to something more classic and timeless, particularly given the context around here. Just to think about that. So I'd like to go to public comment. I will say that we have, I think Attorney Allen said, I think it's 24 letters from neighbors, abutters, interested parties. We've read them all. We understand them. What we don't need is an hour of hearing you read the letter. So if you submit a letter, thank you. We've read it. We understand the concerns. However, this is a public hearing. If you would like to speak, I'm not going to say you can't, but I would ask that you restrict your comments to things that you did not include in your letter. Or if you did not do something in writing and this would be your only opportunity to share your thoughts, we'd be interested in hearing. So we'll use the raise hand function to get you all identified who want to speak, and then Cameron in turn will make you a co-host that you can turn on your microphone and camera and we can have your comments. So first we'll do, Cameron, if you can do this first, Andrew, and then Kevin, the 2 hands that went up.
Matt, should Chris take the screen down so we can, or do you want to leave it up?
I'd leave it up in case they asked to refer to something that was shown tonight. I know the materials are a little different than what was in the online agenda center, so it might be helpful, but thank you.
Yep.
So good evening. My name's Andrew Dennington. I'm an attorney at Con Kavanaugh, and our firm represents the Fair Green Condominium Trust and the Pudding Stone Condominium Trust. And Mr. Hyatt, I'll take to mind your comment that I'm not going to be respectful of your time. My colleague Peter Kovo, who couldn't be with us here tonight because he had a emergency that had come up, had submitted a letter to your board, and that really echoed some of the concerns that the residents have here, and I know that they'll speak more directly to those concerns. But you know, I'm encouraged by some of the comments and questions that the board members have asked here. I think the suggestion of continuing this hearing makes sense. The overall overarching comment I'd make, I think that this is a project that should slow down and should go through a more collaborative process to address the concerns of the residents, and that it began on the wrong foot when the removal of the mature trees began when it did. And one suggestion that I'd make, I think this is an example where appointment of a design advisory team could really help the project, because that would involve a representative of the neighborhood. It could help improve the project to get to a point where it doesn't adversely impact the neighborhood. And the section 5.09 of the bylaw contemplates the appointment of a design advisory team for a project which might have a significant impact on the character of the area. And I think this is a project that fits that description. So thanks for taking the opportunity to listen to our concerns. And I know that there's many residents of Fair Green and Pudding Stone who can speak more directly to those concerns for you right now.
Appreciate that. Thank you much. I will also offer, in the interest of trying to provide proactive ideas, obviously the letters were stating the concerns with various aspects of what you were all able to see. So if the conversation that the board has had this evening gives you thoughts on things you'd like to suggest the design team take into effect, understanding that as of right, they can build something this big, they can build 3 things this size, that's not up for debate, but how it looks, how it feels, the articulation of it, those are things that we can have some input on. Happy to take comments along those lines tonight too, and also invite you to send them in writing if you want to do some thinking about that before submitting. So we'll do Kevin next, and then Lawrence after Kevin. Oh, you're still on mute, Kevin.
Mute.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and also members of the board for your time and for your care in reviewing, you know, quite a bit of information that came your way. I'll try to not repeat much. I represent, I'm a lawyer at Golson & Stores in Boston. I represent the owner and the tenant at 33 Fair Green, which is directly adjacent to the building number 3 that you've talked about a bit tonight, the one that's turned 90 degrees to the other buildings. And my clients have a lot of the concerns that you've already heard about, that you yourselves have articulated in terms of the density, the massing, things that you saw in the letters. One thing of particular concern to my clients is the height of the building, which, you know, I know that we're looking at buildings that are 3 stories tall, 35 feet just under for building 3. I think it's something like 34.7. But there's a deck on top, as a number of you have mentioned, and that is effectively a 4th story of living space, because there's you know, a protective railing or a wall of some kind up there. I'm not quite sure what the design is going to be. And that wall or railing is there to allow folks to use and occupy, you know, that space. And so it effectively becomes, at least in certain times of year, 4 stories. And my client's property is basically right under that. And there are some other decks and raised balconies and the like. that look right down. So that's a significant concern for my client. It's something that some of your board members have already put your finger on, so I'll stop there on that. But Mr. Hyde, I may just, I don't want to disagree with you, obviously, because I'm just showing up here for the first time. But I do think there may be some question about whether this design of putting 3 large buildings where there was once one is really, in keeping at least, and appropriate with the neighborhood. And I've heard some talk tonight about, and I read it in the comments that people sent in about the cutting of the trees. And I've heard Mr. Allen, who I know and respect very much, talk about how they were trying to get out in front of a tree bylaw. But there's another bylaw that's at play here, and that's section 5.09 of your bylaw. And it's what is to guide this board in its review of this project. And the first requirement in that section is that the developers maintain all existing trees and other site features until a special permit is approved. Now, in this particular case, the horse went out of the barn a little early on that. Well, the trees are gone, and there's maybe 30, 40 mature trees or shrubs that were removed in January of 2025. What does that do? Well, that sort of ties this board's hands to some extent. Because one of the things I think this board is required to do under section 509 is try to preserve as much of the existing vegetation and the site features as possible. And so the horse and cart got reversed on that particular situation. I just urge the board to look at that. So what do you do, though? The trees are gone. I think what you do is also answered in the bylaw. And I think the bylaw says this board can form or can require the developers to retain an arborist to go out and look at what's gone, identify what's gone, do a restoration plan. And that restoration plan should guide and I would say constrain to some extent the development. And I would submit that the developer can't write that out of the bylaw by going out and clear cutting the property before coming before this board or the ZBA. And there is a provision within your bylaw that I think could be used to back this up a little bit. And as Mr. Dennington said, slow it down a little bit and have a complete restoration plan in place to guide the redevelopment of this property. So I'll stop there, and I appreciate your time. Thank you for your attention, and good night.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the comments. Yeah, I'm more inclined to make sure we get a robust landscape plan that works well both with the new development, which are 3 properties, and properly screens and mediates between the adjacent neighbors and the new, rather than put back what was there, which I'm looking at it. Yes, there are old trees. I'm not sure it was the best landscape design that is possible on this site. I think that we could make sure we get something that's a better ultimate design. Certainly the arborvitae is not going to be part of that mix. But I would hope that we can find a way to use landscaping as a tool to help mediate between neighbor concerns and the scale to some extent of these buildings, among other things. So I'm hoping we'll see some scale adjustments on.
I appreciate the comment.
Thank you.
I want to just underline that, Matt. I think that was very well put. And I think that it really kind of shows off what the kind of meager landscaping thinking is to date. So thank you for your detailed comments, Matt.
Yeah, no, landscaping is an important design tool. We want to use it to the best effect. Lawrence Foster has his hand up next. I don't see any others after that. So if you do still want to speak, please put your hand up if you can.
So I'll eliminate almost all of what I was going to say, just keep it very brief. But I think you need to be perhaps informed or reminded that this is a community of empty nesters.
Sorry, could this person say where their address? Did they?
I'm
get
sorry,
that?
it's Lawrence Foster, 27 Fairgreen Place. I'm the president of the Fairgreen Condominium Association or Trust.
Thanks.
So we are a community, and the Fairgreen Condominium Trust, 19 out of the 20 units are between 2,000 and 2,400 square feet footage. So three 4,100 square foot buildings in the middle of our association just don't seem to make sense to me. And it's primarily, I think, driven by economics, and that third floor is a big part of that. And I think this is the first thing you see when you drive up the driveway. And it's going to be, obviously, it's going to be very different. And we're not against development. We know that something's going to happen here, but we just want to make sure that it fits well with our community.
Yeah,
And that's basically all I have to say.
yeah, well said. I think we have the same goal in mind. We want to make sure this fits well. And I wouldn't be, this is sad to say, I wouldn't be surprised if these don't get sold to empty nesters or adult children who come and visit on holidays and use those spare bedrooms. But I do not see these as family. Maybe it's my own reading. I don't see these as family homes as much as I see them as sort of luxury homes for empty nesters.
Well, with
And then,
the elevator gone, that might change the marketing a little bit.
Well, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but if that new bylaw passes, you can add an elevator as of right, to accommodate a disability. I mean, that's going to be
And
every building.
I
in
have a
Brookline
question
should have
about
the
the
right to do
elevator.
that.
I mean, it's my understanding, I read elevator or height restriction exclusions, and an elevator penthouse was excluded. So,
The elevator's gone. The elevator was removed from the project.
right, but it should have been excluded from any height restriction
No,
anyway.
Yeah, Lawrence, the elevator went all the way up to the roof deck. So it wasn't just the penthouse. That was.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't a
Gotcha.
head house. That was a full stop. on
That's
the
right.
roof level.
And I would like to make sure that the height restriction that you were using, I mean, I find the height calculation extremely complex, and I'd like someone to show me what would be the most beneficial height restriction for Fairgreen. You know, is it 35 or is it 28? Because, and I would take issue with the calculation, because I think the difference between your heights and our heights is more than 8 feet. I think it's closer to 10. And because our buildings are 20 feet high at the gutter.
Yeah.
And
We're
I
gonna
don't
have
think
to
they
take
go
the
up more.
chance to at the end, just to take us back, put up an image that shows how they were measuring from what grade to get their heights, just so we all have
Sure.
understanding their
So
approach.
it is the building commissioner who determines the height and interprets it from the zoning bylaw. And then if someone doesn't agree with that, that can be appealed to the ZBA. But the ZBA would probably rely on the building commissioner's determination.
Yeah, I think it would just be helpful for everyone just to have
Absolutely.
Russ
Let's take a
just
look at it.
go through that real quick at the end. So
Before,
Blair, you have another.
before we continue this case, at some point, maybe we can finish the public comments. I'd like to query the board about the roof decks.
My personal thought is, if you start to shift the first, second, and third floor so that what is currently shown as balconies become more sizable, because there's volume of building under it, basically roof decks at those two levels, you won't need the one at the top of the building, that you could make the two exterior balconies into significantly sized roof decks, would not be out of keeping with 43 Fairgreen, the existing building. That's a fairly large occupiable outdoor space at the second level. I don't know that there's a better view from the roof than you can get from the balcony on the top floor.
I also think that I took the point that, having the roof deck, all accessible really does present a kind of burden on the abutters. And I'm thinking about the extensive reviews we had of the school out down on Bellingham, where neighbors were very much upset about a large usable roof area. And I think since this is new construction and there's a lot of FAR available here, I really second your comment, Matt. And I would, I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks there should not be a roof deck on this site in this neighborhood, as being very contrary to the neighborhood. And where we have allowed that, sometimes in other more dense areas, they've always been fairly small. And where there really hasn't been other open space, where here I think there's lots of open space available.
Attorney
I would go along with that. I mean, I think there's the deck on the second floor. I know this deck overlooks the country club, is almost 300 square feet already. And, although in other circumstances, that again, the roof deck appears to be, at least on buildings 1 and 2, it appears to be on the country club, the back of the building. And what we've often done in more urban situations is to ask developers to pull roof decks back from the edges of a building so that there's not the same ability to immediately overlook a neighbor's property. And that's another kind of intermediate solution. But I do think that with the large first floor deck, there's a deck on the second floor off the primary bedroom, I think. The owner's bedroom.
Yep.
There's already a lot of entertaining space. And I would also say, I'm not talking about roof decks here, but I live near Coolidge Corner and bought a home with a 7-story 1970s condominium building overlooking the backyard, which has decks on all 7 floors, all the way across the back of that building. And I never see anybody on any of those decks ever. And I've been here 30 years. So never mind, I'm not talking about roof decks, but just decks in general. They're great sales tools. A property like this overlooking the country club, I could see people on those decks, but decks aren't the killer of privacy in an urban situation that people seem to think they are.
Hey, Matt, could I just correct one thing?
Yeah,
And Chris, back me up on this. I think the elevators are still there. They're just
They're
not
still
going,
there. They're
just
internal.
not going up
There's
to the
no-
roof.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
I don't know
Okay,
if you
thought
said
you
that
were
they
sa-
weren't there.
I thought you were saving space for a future elevator. I didn't realize you're actually
Yeah,
gonna.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. There's just not an over, not a
That's right.
stop
That's
on the
right.
roof. Okay.
That's right.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
All right, we have David Millett. Your hand is up. We'll have you go next. Karen, can you make him a presenter if he's not already?
He should be all set. He can unmute himself.
Okay.
Hi, I'm a trustee of the Pudding Stone Trust in Condo Association, and I want to just support Lawrence in his view, and particularly because I happen to live right across the street from 43, and by the time they get up to the 3rd and 4th floor, they'll look right into my bedroom. So I'm less excited about it for sure, but the thing that really bothered me in this presentation tonight is the really delightful presentation about what this place would look like when they're all done with it. But that isn't going to be what it's going to look like. And these 3-story buildings are not in style with everything else in the properties. And they won't look like that because they cut down all the trees already. and they won't be able to grow the trees in the next day or two. So I'm just really concerned that we're coming up with something that is a horrible addition to a perfectly wonderful neighborhood. And that's the end of my statement.
All right, thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. As I mentioned, we will be working on hopefully getting a landscape plan that includes, and we're going to need Blair's help in understanding what the species are and which ones will grow to maturity more quickly. This doesn't necessarily say it's a 5-year or a 10-year. That could be a 20-year view by the time the landscaping comes in. So that'll be something we'll look at.
Yeah, Matt, we definitely had put together the landscape plan with sort of an idea of where we were looking at. We haven't brought the landscape architect in.
Yep.
So we haven't really, we kind of focused on the where it's going to be, where we would put up some privacy screening, but you know, we can definitely do a better job there. We acknowledge that.
Yep. Understood. Thank you. All right. So as I mentioned, I would love for the architect for Chris, sorry. Please remind us of how you calculated the building height, just so people have that for a frame of reference.
So the height comparison, that's okay. That's what I used to go by in high school. So the buildings themselves, from a pure height standpoint, are 45 feet from the finished grade to the roof. When you see the other building height for the building department is calculated from an average grade. So that when I gave the height differences, it was using our finished grade to our finished roof and using the same thing with the finished grade of the existing 55 and 33 structures. And in calculating them, I'm glad that I forget the gentleman's name that said they're 20 feet high, because that's what I came up with. And once you get up to the ridge, was about 22 to 23 feet high of total rise from finished grade to their roof point. Now, we subtract those two numbers, come up with 11 feet, and then take into account that our building, like on, going to use 55 as an example for a moment, from our finished grade to their finished grade is about 4 to 4.5 feet of grade change. So taking that into account, our building and their building, and subtracting them, that's where came up for them. It's about 6'8" of difference between the ridge of their building to the top of our structure. And the same approach was for 33, and that one was 8'2" of a change between our building and their ridge.
All right. So the site, I'm just make sure I read the contour map correctly. It's relatively flat through the depth of the buildings and a little bit into the backyard, and then it slopes significantly.
So up here. So one of the pieces, as we're going to be taking, there is a grade change from here up to the existing grade.
That's the retaining wall on your site plan.
Yeah, it's shown as a retaining wall now, but the goal is, assuming there's ledge in there, that we can use the broken face of the ledge and try to keep it as natural looking as possible, and appreciate the comments on the landscape. Yes, we should develop that further. And that's part of the discussion, is how do we naturalize that transition versus build a retaining wall along this side. So the retaining wall along here is, along this line, is approximately 3 feet. And the same is down here on the edge of lot 3 and 33.
And then on the opposite side, it retains your site from the neighbors?
Yep, on both sides.
On both sides, you're lower than the neighbors. Okay.
Yeah, so if, hopefully I don't get it.
Is it roughly 3 feet on both sides?
Yep, exactly. And then once we get onto the neighbor's property, it starts to rise up on the 33 side.
Okay. All right, so you
And
got
then
a
on-
45-foot tall building that's at about 3 feet lower than the edge of the property with the neighbor.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Kevin Flaherty's hand is back up or is still up?
It's back up. I can.
Okay.
I just clarify this. These buildings are not 45 feet high, they're 35 feet high, or just a little below that, correct?
35, yes.
Oh, sorry, I
Sorry,
misspoke.
34.
34.
Yeah, my question just goes to the height, which is this. In listening, what I understood the height issue was for the building inspector originally was what I'll call the head house to the elevator. Building inspector saw that and said, that's too tall. Now those head house has been removed. My question is, doesn't this need to go back to the building inspector to make sure that the height calculations were done according to Hoyle? I think there's various ways under the bylaws, I understand it, to calculate height. And I just think now that the issue that the building inspector seemed to be focused on initially has been taken out of the situation, might make some sense to let the building inspector have another look and just confirm that with the removal of that head house, there's no more issue with the height as far as the building inspector is concerned.
Yeah,
I
I've
can
spoken
confirm
with
that we
the-
did that. We
Yeah.
did that, Kevin.
And I did that as well, and there's no issue.
Okay.
And David, did you have more to say, or you just did put your hand back down?
Sorry, yes, the question of height versus grade and everything else to me is somewhat irrelevant versus there's not any building in there that's over 2 stories high. And you're making 3 stories high because they happen to be a little lower in grade than the others, so they can get away with getting the height, which I don't think improves the neighborhood and the view of everybody there, of having suddenly 3 3-story buildings in the middle of a community of only 2-story buildings. That's the end of it. Thank you.
Appreciate that. You know, I'm hoping we get to something that from the street looks like a 2-story building, but has a 3rd story pushed back enough that formally it works. And we sort of eliminate the appearance of a 3-story structure. But I even with, you know, understanding that the neighbors would prefer it not to be this tall, they're allowed to build this tall. That's what the zoning says they can do. So we want to get the best looking building that's as tall as they're allowed to do for the neighbors. We're not going to be lopping off the top floor. If we can avoid it, we can make it work better. I am willing to, though, Attorney Allen, tell us if you're able to look at the roof deck as being something where you increase the occupiable outdoor space on the other levels in exchange for either, to Steve's point, having the roof version set back pretty far from the eaves, so it's really not able to overlook into neighboring yards, or eliminate it completely. Again, if you end up looking at slightly low-pitched roofs as part of the formal solution, maybe a roof deck doesn't make sense for that reason too.
We're gonna have a conversation about the roof decks, Mr. Chair.
Okay, appreciate that.
I've
All
already
right.
pointed out that the roof deck is on the back of the buildings facing the golf course. And actually, I'm not a big fan of adding a low slope roof just because the other buildings have it. But if you think about it, a low slope roof from the front that goes up a couple of feet, there's a roof deck behind it, you wouldn't see it at all.
Yep.
Well, that's why I don't want to commit either way, because we're talking about almost a wholesale change of design. So I don't know what it's going to look like yet, and I'm not the vision guy here, so we'll have to huddle with the team.
Yep.
You know, the one thing I want to bring up again, because you brought it up at the beginning, a couple people brought it up at the beginning, and then it kind of died out, was the shared driveway issue. you know, I mean, obviously my reluctance is it's yet another special permit. And I've already seen 2 lawyers jump on this call tonight, and you don't want to create more potential appeal issues than you need to. So we were trying to keep it as clean as possible, and that's why we chose not to go special permit. But again, I see the benefit of it, and I heard Linda in particular what you said. And so I'll have conversation as I have with Kevin and Peter Kovo, and we'll talk more, and maybe there's even a chance to huddle up with neighbors and see what we can do here. So I appreciate it. As I said at the very beginning, I expected this to be continued. I wasn't coming here thinking that this was going to be approved tonight. This is all part of the process, and I think it's a good part of the process. But I do want to emphasize that I feel that there's been some communication with the neighborhood. It hasn't just been us moving forward without any communication. So, but we will open up the lines a little more aggressively from this point forward.
Appreciate that. I'm looking again at the site plan. I understand the idea of the shared driveway. I don't think you'll end up with I don't think you can get the turning radius for that to work.
Yeah, it's tight. It's tight.
And I also, as someone who might want to buy a house like this, I don't know that I wouldn't want my own short driveway versus a shared longer driveway with a neighbor, and then you have to decide who's paying for the snow shoveling. So
I know, but it's an angle of trying to avoid garage doors, which just to me are like the bane of suburbia right now. It's just looking at a garage door.
There's again for the architect, there's a house near the you said the Lawrence School. The garage door is done in the same siding as the house, and when it's down, you sort of don't see it. So maybe don't make the garage door feature and think about how it might be camouflaged. Again, not saying we want a carport, but the carports don't have garage doors. If there's a way to not introduce garage doors, that might be another way to reference some of the adjacent fabric.
And, yeah, the side of it could be a screen, like some sort of screen.
Yeah, a trellis or some kind of projection with something on the sides. Again, not a carport, but something that's evocative of that might also put it in the shadow, which would help. Yeah, so that reference image that you have bottom left, like not literally that, but there's something to that might be helpful to break up the facade a bit. So Chris, do you feel like you have enough from us to?
Yes.
Okay.
And I do appreciate it. All very, very thoughtful and well said comments and well taken. So yes, we do have quite a bit of work to do and a lot of information given to us. So I think at this point we have enough to sit down and sort of reconsider.
Yeah, we'll work with Cameron and Polly.
Can I just make offer one other suggestion on this driveway and garage issue?
Sure.
Can you put up a site plan, one of the site plans?
Sorry.
I'm actually looking at it on my own screen, but if you put it up. So if just think about this, if you use the driveway to unit 3 as the shared driveway, which then sort of turned into and served as side garage on unit 2, and if you then pushed units 1 and 2 together, so it was basically a 2-family, you could create enough room to have a driveway on the left side of unit 1, which would pull unit 1 further away from the neighbor, have a side entrance. You've only got one window on the stairway side of these units 1 and 2. You only lose one window, and you would create a lot more open space on your site.
But then they have side yard setback special permit.
Yeah, they need other relief, but
so they're trying to avoid that, but
right.
But it's not
yet. They're not done yet. So
Well, there's been marching orders from this board, Linda in particular, that says I will not support a new construction that requires special permit relief. So we were trying to be respectful of that. We hear you.
But but there's also, if it's good enough design, we reward you.
I get that. And I appreciate that. I get that. We've got some good marching orders. So I
All right.
appreciate all the time everybody put
Absolutely.
into this.
All right.
All right, Matt, a
Good time
formal
here.
motion, I think, to continue would be in order.
Yeah, motion to continue. Can I get a second?
Second.
We'll just do voice vote. All in favor? Aye.
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 You
Aye,
all- Nice.
Motion carries. Appreciate it. And,
Thank
and
you all.
thank you all. Appreciate the time tonight. It's a late one, but good to get through
Yeah.
this all.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care,
Thank you
everybody.
very much.
Good night.